Hello and welcome to the second session of our inspiration series with talking to some people who've been out there and house sitting different parts of the world. Funnily enough, our guests here today are not house sitting right now. They have headed back to their hometowns for a little bit, which will be an interesting story to share as well. But the purpose of today's inspiration session is to really talk about how house sitting is slowly making its way around the world, particularly into non-English speaking countries more and more. And this is outside of where expats are. Now, personally, we've been in a number of non-English speaking countries house sitting over the last 3.5 years, but they've generally been expat communities and they are English speaking, either Brits or Americans or Canadians. So it was really important for us to get our guests here today. We have Carlos from 𝗣𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗲.com, a blog that is in both Portuguese and in English, which is a brilliant effort. I struggle to do even one blog in one language, so well done on doing two. And Martin and Donald in Istanbul in Turkey, who are blogging at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 So it's interesting when we've got like the kind of group thing, but if we could maybe hear a little bit from each of you to start with about, you know, how long you've actually been house sitting and how you stumbled across it. And then we can just put a few topics on the table to kind of discuss, if that works.
All right,
Okay.
take away, Carlos.
Well, I started house sitting when I was planning to travel to New Zealand. I ran into some blogs and I realized that in New Zealand it's a common thing to do, to travel and leave your pets with a house sitter. For us as Brazilians, we have never heard before of such thing. And for us, it was the perfect opportunity to save some money while traveling. We knew we were able to move around different regions of New Zealand, stay in different places, house sitting, and being able to travel more because of the savings we were making.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time we arrived at the first house, we knew it was our thing. You know, it was a completely different kind of travel and a way of traveling that we really liked. We could travel slower and travel even more than we have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm.
So after we stayed almost a year in New Zealand, and then as house sitting showed us it was possible to do not only in New Zealand but in other many countries. We went traveling all around Asia and Europe, and now we are back to Brazil, but getting ready to start traveling again in a few months and house sitting again.
Well, let's just mention that you are in Rio, and the reason you went back to Brazil was very good timing to go there for the Olympics, as Gonal just mentioned there before as well.
Yeah. We were away from home for a while, for almost 2 years, and not only coming back to meet our family, to tell them the bunch of stories we have, but we were having the Olympics in Rio, so we thought it was a good opportunity to stay home and feel the different environment in the city for this month we had.
Yeah, definitely feels different when the Olympics are on in your own city.
And
cool.
we'll definitely come back and talk a little bit more about the media attention that you have gotten over the last 2 years as well. But let's first hear from Martin and Gonal.
Hi, yeah. So I think I got into house sitting first through a friend who needed his place looking after while he was away himself. So that was in England. And that kind of started me on thinking, well, you know, this seems like a fair exchange. And then I moved to Turkey with my job, where I met 𝗍𝗏, who, as you'll see, is Turkish. And I think then I learned a little bit more about it because I came across you guys, Nat and Jody, when you were thinking about setting up the house sitting academy.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we kind of known each other now. And then joined that, learned a lot more about house sitting, you know, because of the academy, which was great. And then last year, 𝗍𝗏 and I got married, and we decided to kind of make the honeymoon a bit of a long thing, 13 months and counting. And off we set, and we did a kind of accommodation smorgasbord. We camped under canvas and under starlight. In the States, we used Airbnb, we used house sitting, we house swapped. So we've kind of done every which way there is to you know, keep this kind of lifestyle going. Do you want to add to that, Dave?
Yeah, it wasn't in my plan. After Martin was asking me, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about this idea? Can you do this? Could we do that? And then I said, what? How can you think about like this stuff? It's not safe idea. How can you believe? How can we stay someone's home with them? Is it safe or not? But I used to use Airbnb now, and I recommend a couple of my Turkish friends, and they said they give the same reaction like me. What? Why I'm going to stay with someone and I don't know before, but they check the website and then read the reviews and things like that, and they, oh, it's nice, it's good, it's cheap. And now they started to learn house sitting from us.
Yeah, very good.
From Martin. And someone says, oh, it's very nice idea, it's interesting idea, but someone says, no, I don't want to swap my house. I can't go someone's home and sleep someone's bed.
Yeah.
And you know, it's cultural and religious difference, but it's great way to see some more countries and places, different lifestyles.
Yeah, I feel that from that
style in their
yeah, that cultural thing that you're talking about, and really house sitting, while it's not a new concept at all, and I'm sure people all around the world have been doing this for centuries.
Friends and family
because if
everywhere.
you think just from your local community or your grandparents' local community, people would be taking care of each other's homes or pets or anything, probably within the family first. So perhaps you have looked after your grandmother's place or, you know, your brother's place, etc. So it's just a case of how you start to educate I guess, the different communities of the world where the idea of a total stranger coming into your home, be it either as Airbnb or as a house sitter. So Carlos, did you get any kind of reactions like these guys were getting in Turkey?
Yeah, and in most cases, well, first people are impressed for what we are doing, Because when we talk about our travels, we always used to show house sitting as the thing that allowed us to travel so much.
Yes.
So first they get impressed, and then they start to think how could they do something similar if start to question if what we are presenting them is really truth. You know, if it's really...
Is it real?
It's a legitimate thing.
Yeah. But I think the biggest cultural shock happens when they start to think the other way around. Like they have such a big wall they built when they think they could let someone in their homes. And I think that's the big issue we have in different cultures, because people are really wanting to be house sitters, but not to be the homeowner who will let house sitters stay in that place.
Right.
That's the biggest gap I can see when talking to people about house sitting in general.
Okay. Yeah. So it's you're finding it hard that it's harder to get the homeowners on board than it is to get obviously the house sitters. Is sort of relatively easy, I guess, because you know, it is free travel. There's a lot of pluses for becoming a house sitter. It's a very sexy thing to be. But what I was picking up, Martin, from 𝗀𝗀 was her main concern was actually the safety of going into somebody's home that she doesn't know. Was that her main thing?
Yes, both that way, and you know, if she was to open up her own home, the same thing. There's very much because I think a family, like you said, is closer knit here in Turkey. So you know, I mean, it's not uncommon, for example, when people get married to then move into the same apartment block as the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Which isn't something that I wanted to do,
yes.
But you know, it's not an uncommon thing. So family is much more geographically close knit, and it's not about different cultures and different countries. Turkish people don't really trust other Turkish people outside of their own family.
Okay.
Their families are very large because everybody who's even remotely related is a cousin.
It is.
So everybody has. I mean, 𝗀𝗀, you know, I think at our wedding she only invited family, nobody else, and there were hundreds of people there. It was crazy. So there is this mistrust of people outside of the family unit.
Right.
You know, I used to think, oh, it's because I'm English and I'm not Turkish, but it's not. It's because I'm not part of that family unit. Yeah. And they do have this thing about safety. They're very worried about it. Istanbul is, and I've heard many expats say the same thing. Once you take away, you know, the headlines about bombs and things like that, day-to-day living, it's the safest city I've ever lived in. I can walk around at night and I have no fears at all, you know, that somebody's going to attack me, which I couldn't say about London, for example.
Yeah.
And yet they do have this big fear culture. So safety and fear was one of the things. For example, 𝗀𝗀's friend, one of the first things she said was, well, what if the homeowner, if we go into somebody's home, what if the homeowner is secretly filming us?
Right.
And I know there've been some discussions about that, but that was the first thing that she thought about. I think, well, there are 100 things I could think about house sitting that wouldn't have been on that list of 100. You know, maybe once you get down to the lower.
Yeah.
So yes, that is a cultural aspect from this country.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, I take my hat off to you know, all of you guys for getting out and doing it. And I guess the big question, well, you guys in Istanbul now have already proven with house swapping. It's almost like that first taste for 𝗀𝗀 to actually sort of go, okay, we did it. I'm in somebody else's home. I'm going to look after their things. Therefore, I have to trust that whoever's in my home is going to reciprocate. So, Carlos, I guess from, you know, now you've been on the other side, if you were to own your own home, would you take in house sitters?
I think I would. And well, in the position I am now with my blog and talking about it, it would be a great opportunity to show people how it works from the other side. It is a really big challenge we have in here. Since I started writing, I always keep an eye on the biggest platforms to see if there are any listings in Brazil for house sitting opportunities in Brazil. And I feel
some more.
There's a few more coming in.
Yeah, I feel that they are more common now. Like when I started, there was none, and now once in a while we can see one or two, and I think it's a result of the work we are doing. Like, we were the first ones to write about it in Portuguese, and now I can see two or three other blogs in Portuguese also writing about it. So it's slowly changing the minds of a few people, and I hope will only grow with time. And
Absolutely. I mean, I know that Portuguese isn't spoken all throughout South America. It is a mixture of Spanish and Portuguese, but we have to we get so excited when we see more South American countries coming up. There's been Uruguay a couple of times. There's been more Argentina coming up. There has been more Brazil, and it's sort of like, oh yes, it's very exciting.
Slowly, bit by bit. And I guess it is a process, isn't it? The whole trust process and it filtering through a culture. And I think the Asian culture is very similar. Because as you're saying, Martin, the family units are different in these countries as well. So they do live with their in-laws and their families after they're married and stuff. So when you go away, you don't really need house sitters to come in that you don't know, because you've got so many family members to look after cats and dogs and whatever. So it really is different.
Sorry, because I think in Brazil is a little bit different, the relation, than what Martin was talking about in Turkey.
Yes.
I think people here, they care more about the house, the place,
Right.
because the big cities in Brazil are not a safe place for you to walk. Like, you have to know where you're going to. You are always looking over your shoulder to see if someone is following you or not. So the house would be your safest place on earth. And I think it's hard for people to open the only safe place they have to someone they don't really know. They just exchange some messages on a website.
We can see that, sorry, Carlos, I can see that as a very good opportunity to focus on, though, from the security standpoint. So even if it is a short vacation or family emergency, from a security standpoint, that could be something to maybe switch the focus towards, is making sure somebody is in your house to keep it safe.
Give that lived-in look.
Yeah, sure. It's just hard to make people absorb that information and change the regular way of doing with this thing. Like last week, I was in a meeting with other bloggers in São Paulo, and they were talking about the shared economy and examples of startups that are now working in Brazil.
Yes.
And they mentioned a website that works like the opposite of house sitting. Like you register, and then if you are willing to travel, you take your dog and live in some other people's place for them to care for the dog for you.
Oh, okay.
You don't really open your house for someone to care for your dog inside your house. You take your dog out to another place, to someone else that will get some money for the period. And that made us, like, my wife and I, realize how far we are of making people understand what house sitting is about, because this other website we didn't know at the time was mentioned in a startup meeting, and no word was talked about house sitting at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, it's kind of exciting to think that it is still so new from a awareness standpoint into different cultures, because like even hearing about the Turkish culture and, you know, Portuguese culture, and really we could even say the American culture. I mean, most of the US is fearful of anyone and anything, particularly from outside of their own countries. So it really doesn't matter what country you come from. Perhaps Australia, New Zealand, I mean, you know, you started in New Zealand. We've known about house sitting for many years, probably through the UK as well. It's been definitely something around those countries that have led the way. But we're certainly a long way away from having, you know, full awareness in the United States, that's for sure. And Asian countries, South American countries, and a lot of the Eastern European countries. You know, there's quite a few Western European countries taking in house sitters now. But even we were going to have Marianne from 𝗏𝗏𝗏 here, who has worked with a French agency for many years with having house sitters come in as work. It's their paid work. But she said even culturally, the French can be a little bit, you know, standoffish and like, oh, I can't trust who's coming in. I need to, you know, have all their credentials read. And so it's a fascinating topic. And I think we've got many years to keep our work going.
Definitely. We're not going to run out of assignments, I don't think, anytime soon. But I really feel that expats are leading the way as well. And us traveling as expats to different countries and spreading the word about house sitting. And, you know, the fact that we are, I guess, trustworthy and there for the right reasons, sort of thing. We're not there just for a free holiday. We are actually there to help and be of service in house sitting. So it really is important that house sitters do talk to local people and to other expats in those areas that we're going to. Like here in Costa Rica, there's a huge expat community and so much scope. You know, even just walking on the beach the other day with our homeowner, meeting some of the other expat people there and stuff. It's like, oh, I'm going away too, sort of thing. And then you get those referral sits. But not only is it referral sits for us, but it's also spreading the word about house sitting and the true meaning of house sitting as well.
Yeah, especially. So, 𝗏𝗏𝗏, can I ask you, please, how has your mindset changed since you've had a house swap? So obviously you've had the experience of being a guest as well as a house sitter, but how did it feel to have somebody in your home?
It's in that time I couldn't feel any difference because we were in their home and they were in our home, and we really enjoyed their place. I was worrying about specifically for them because our home is not in the center and not much English speakers around them, and I was worrying how they can manage their life in this place. House is the similar, full of similar stuff. They can find what they do. And just one friend helped them for house and showed them around the house for shopping and chemists and what they need, restaurants, and that's it. But they managed that, and I was very happy about that. And when I came back first, I ran around the house and checked what does it look like. I think they did the same thing, and that was interesting. And we were look each other and says everything is here.
But what I like though is the first thing that you were worried about is actually as the role of a host. So as the role of a host, and this is what so many homeowners are actually like. They are more worried that their house is clean for you, that it's easy for you to get to the shops, that you can speak the language, that
it's sort of standard that you expect, sort of thing. Like,
because it's almost, even though they are not getting any money for having you as a guest, it's almost like they are an Airbnb host. So they are saying, oh, is my home good enough, type of thing for you? Is the location good enough for you? It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that as well, that we swapped with a retired American couple who we'd never met before. We just exchanged messages on the internet. They lived in Ecuador, and it was for 2.5 months.
Wow.
I mean, they had not even a single word of Turkish. But one of the advantages, and Carlos touched on it, you know, with slow travel is that you get to spend longer in a community. And even if you have no language, you know, people are interested in you, and, you know, almost everybody is helpful. Yeah. So they came back. They still didn't have very much Turkish, to be honest, when they came back. But they had no problems, you know. They were able to get around and sightsee and do all sorts of different things, because people were willing to help them. And sometimes, you know, I've also heard people worried about, shall I go somewhere where I don't speak the language? Yes. And I would say yes, do it. You know, it's very enriching.
It's such a different experience, isn't it, when you don't speak the language, because you have to rely on so many other parts of yourself, like your body language and your energy and that sort of stuff. You do become a lot more aware of yourself and your surroundings when you actually can't speak the language and use that as your communication tool.
Because we have house sat in Ecuador ourselves, I just had a vision of the place we were at and the neighbours. I'm sure that they would have been like, you would have been the first Turkish person they probably would have met. It's sort of like, you come from where? You'd have to show a map to say, you know, I come from Turkey.
Do you want to tell them about the soap?
Yeah, in not much in Colombia, but in Peru and Ecuador, when I told them I'm from Turkey, and they asked me, are you from Turkey? Yes, I'm from Istanbul. Istanbul? And I was in shock why they were very excited about it. And then we know it's why, because of 16th century soap opera in Peru and Ecuador. People are following that soap operas, and they were asking, are you wearing that kind of clothes?
You'd be a celebrity.
You're like, it's
just because you're
associated with it. Yeah.
That's very interesting for Turkish people. So many Turkish people learned the history with that soap opera.
Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting thing, and I met one Turkish man in Cuenca in Ecuador, and he has got a souvenir shop like antique chandeliers and silver jewels and stuff. And you know, how did I learn it? I joined a cooking class. I'm interested with different cuisines, and I went in Ecuadorian cooking class. The lady organized that class. Do you know we have one more Turkish people in the Cuenca? And she called him and gave her phone to me, and I was in shock. What shall I say? I don't know.
The stranger.
but in that city, maybe I'm third people. One of my friends has been in Cuenca and she met with him. And now we are following each other on Facebook.
Excellent.
cool.
Always new friends.
Yeah.
Well, that made me realize, particularly from a cuisine standpoint, I can't think of any major city in the world now that doesn't have, pretty much any type of cuisine. We see the Brazilian char grills everywhere. We see the Turkish restaurants. We see the, Arabic and Thai and Asian. And so that basically means that you could pretty much say there is an expat in another country from any country.
Yeah.
So when it comes to house sitting, it's almost that you could be house sitting for your own country's expat in many different countries around the world. So many
different places, yeah. Maybe that's not a bad place to start sometimes, is find your own fellow countrymen in different countries. On
that note, did you meet any other Brazilians who were house sitting or needing house sitters, Carlos?
Sorry,
Did you meet any other Brazilians on your travel that might have needed house sitters, or?
No, not in person, but my blog has become like the hub for house sitters, for Brazilian house sitters.
Awesome.
So I know of a Brazilian couple that is in Bangkok for 4 months now. Another that is traveling the States for almost 6 months. So they always go back to my blog as they figure out their way, this way of traveling through my blog. So they'll post comments and tell how their travels are going. But I've never met them, just
not yet.
Virtual friendship.
That's very cool.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll finish up here in a moment. Basically, if you were speaking to somebody now who is from a non-English speaking country, it doesn't matter where it is in the world, have you got a little piece of advice that you could share with regards to not just getting out and house sitting, but perhaps spreading the word about house sitting?
I would suggest to simply talk. If this person has some experience in house sitting, just talk about what happens, how's your routine. Talk about the friends you make in different countries, and showing people that it is possible, because most people are just afraid of starting. And the first seat you get is maybe the hardest one, because you have to leave all these things behind and trust lots of things like the website, your host, a new country. But once you're done, you won't stop.
Yeah.
It's addictive, isn't it?
It is addictive.
And Martin and Ganel, have you?
I would say that although maybe house sitting is still in its infancy in many non-English speaking parts of the world, the first thing I remember in the sharing economy was eBay, and this idea of buying things from people who you didn't know, and also selling things and hoping you got the money from people you didn't know.
Yep.
And it was all based on a mutual rating system. And so if you could see that lots of people had said, yeah, I had a good experience, you felt better about it. And we've traveled around across South America. Uber and other startups that are similar to Uber also work on a rating system. And again, you're getting in somebody's car you know nothing about, but you're trusting them because of that.
Yep.
In Turkey, they have their own version of eBay. Again, the same idea, let's have a mutual trust and rating system. So I would probably say to people, look at things that are happening in the sharing economy in your country, and why are they starting to work, and how do we overcome the worry and build the trust. And the principle is the same, really. it may be, you know, like you say, Carlos, a bit of a bigger step, but it's the same, you know, step on the journey of trusting people that you don't know.
It gives me goosebumps, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
it seriously gives me goosebumps. Thank you for articulating that so beautifully, because it's happening in all these different parts of our lives anyway. The building of trust, the building of friendships, the building of relationships, and yeah, we're all contributing to it, and we're all part of receiving from it as well. It's just amazing.
All doing our bit.
The silence.
Nothing more to be said about that.
I know, it was almost
Perfect.
like. Well, I think that all three of us here now are in destinations that are quite sought after for any part, where no matter where you come from in the world. I certainly I can't wait for Nat to come to Turkey.
Definitely.
I've been
a lot of house
before.
sits there, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Like, despite what we've just been talking about, there are actually quite a number of house sits in Turkey.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And I'm really looking forward to getting there.
And Brazil, hello.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody on the planet wants to get to Brazil. So, not again there in Europe. So, and we're here, house-sitting in Costa Rica at the moment. And coming from Australia, I guess you guys like the idea of Australia too, do you?
So exotic down there.
But that's it. Everybody has, we've all got these fantastic experiences of travel and life. And I thank you all so much for coming and joining in. And we will have links to your blogs underneath the video. Please check them out. And yeah, great information being shared. And Martin, have you got a link on romanbritons.co.uk to Gonal's amazing cooking as well, her recipes and her videos, etc.?
I'll get that sorted out for you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I'm sure people
We
want to get
definitely
into
need to have some more cuisine coming out.
Yeah, I mean, she's a little bit what's the word, modest, because she ended up actually running cooking schools for both Ecuadorians and expats while we were out there.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so cool. Well, food uniting the world, not house sitting, it's food.
Food, yeah,
Maybe that's the key.
Yes. Yeah, maybe there's a new slogan in there somewhere.
Well,
Awesome.
say hello to your wife first, Carlos, and yeah, we shall see you all somewhere in the world at some stage.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Bye.